Oh, that was actually really funny. That reaction. I didn't see your glasses initially, but yeah. Oppenheimer on 4K. I found it.
There was a sick edition at the Lincoln Walmart that was like some exclusive 4K that was like $40.
Steelbook? Or just like...
No, it was like a digipack.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. No, I've heard this is like one of the best 4Ks that came out last year. I guess Nolan spent a very long time working on the physical media release of this, so I'm super happy that I found it in Bull Moose. It was the only copy. I overpaid for it, but if you order this online, it's like back ordered. It's like it'll be delivered in 5 to 6 weeks. So I was.
How much was it? Like 35?
No, it was 29. So it was
too expensive.
Wait, but like that's the thing. So, well, you got 3 hours of like extra bonus content. Nolan spent a long time, mastering the disc and the restoration. So I'm looking forward to checking it out again. I've only seen it once, and I loved it. So
I need to rewatch it because I remember being in the theater and it like cut to black like 3 different times during the screening, and I was like, "What the heck? This isn't part of the movie."
Oh yeah.
It was like the start of my... That was the one thing about 2023 was my string of theater bad luck, because it was just nonstop.
Like, yeah,
it wasn't even funny. Like there was, like, did I tell you about when I went to see Priscilla?
Was it the people talking, or was it nothing was playing but just audio was playing or something?
It was that one. Nothing was, no screen, just audio. And I had to run out into the lobby and like, I didn't throw a hissy fit, but like there was no one around. It was empty. And I was just like, come on, where is this kid? Like, and he came running back and I was like, hey, would you mind just, he goes, rewinding it and starting from the beginning. I was like, you're the man.
Nice. Yeah. When I worked in a movie theater, I definitely did not have that ability. Like I didn't know how to do that. That was the manager responsibility. But I believe he did do that a couple of times. We lost power. There was one instance though. It was pretty funny. I was working a late night. It was like it was like late night showings at 9 p.m. And John, who's not on the podcast today, he came and saw a late night movie, and it turned out he was the only person in the theater as we were closing up. So we were like, we could just shut this movie off and I'll go home like an hour and a half early. So manager went in. He's like, John, are you okay? Are you really into this movie, or are you cool if we just all go home? And John's like, yeah, you can turn it off. We can go home. But just that ability.
Do you remember what it was?
Probably like Baywatch, or I don't know, maybe Central Intelligence or something, like one of those bad Dwayne Johnson movies that came out in the middle of the summer. It just was not worth staying up to midnight for everyone, so they could watch it.
Was it that one where he's in the shower and he's like a fat kid in high school? And Kevin Hart's the bully.
Intelligence. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought that was something
nobody's
different.
talked about since it came out. Yeah. You've had a lot of bad luck in movie theaters recently, though. I feel like every time you go, either like someone's talking, or the movie, you're in the wrong theater, or like the showtime got messed up, or just nothing's playing. It's just audio. It's crazy.
You just reminded me of the wrong theater thing. Fucking Nun 2.
With the Nun 2, right?
Sit through that a second time.
Yeah. I think you told that story on the Nun 2 episode we did a couple months ago. Yeah. I don't go to the movies that often, maybe like once or twice a month, but every time I do, I usually have pretty flawless interactions at the theater. Things go smoothly. Like I just saw the Iron Claw in theaters recently, and the only thing that happened during that screening was you just could hear a bunch of old dudes sniffling in the back of the theater, just like trying to hide their tears. And it was like the only thing that that I could hear. That was a disturbance of any sorts. But yeah,
when I saw the Iron Claw, there was like some talking, but it was the good type of talking. Like when something happens and like the people to each other are like, oh my
reacting to it.
Yeah. And so I could tell they were kind of wrestling fans, because like stuff would happen and the wife would go like, oh, and then you'd hear the husband be like, yeah, that's the reality of it. And I was like, see, this is like the talking I don't mind, because it's in reaction to what's going on, and not the little kid during Super Mario Brothers that's just running up and down the aisles. I was like, you son of a...
Oh my God, no way.
Bowser.
I did go and see The Menu last year in theaters and ended up refunding
Mhm.
my ticket within the first 10 minutes because it was a packed screening and the theater's audio was so low where you couldn't really hear the dialogue, but all you could hear was just people just like going through, like trying to open up their candy wrappers and like eating popcorn and like slurping on like their drinks and like the ice at the bottom of the can. It's just like, oh my God, I can't hear the movie. I'm just so distracted. So I
So
left.
you left?
Yeah, I left and got a refund
Oh.
and then watched the movie 2 months later on HBO.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
It was such a good theater movie, though.
I know, I'm sure, but the theater's audio was so low, I couldn't hear a single thing, so, oh
That's when
well.
you run out, you find the guy that's doing it, you
Yeah,
make
just
him
tackle him.
rewind it.
Oh, yeah,
That too.
okay.
He's just standing in the middle of somewhere, and you just tackle him in the lobby. Just
nope.
restart the menu.
So this is gonna be kind of a different episode because John is not here. Him and his TFD guys are doing their annual thing where they get together and throw water on each other. It's like these football challenges. I don't follow football, so I don't know what really happens. Follow their TFD page to find out. But he's not on this episode, so we're not going to do like our typical first time watches and trivia the way they normally do it. Instead, we are going to do our new releases, the discussions that we kind of typically do. We have some reviews for Maestro, the Iron Claw, Boy and the Heron, maybe a couple others. And then instead of the first time watches and trivia, we're going to do top 5 under the radar films of 2023. So Nate and I have seen a lot of movies that have come out in 2023. I think the total amount that I saw was 180 by the up to 180. So I have 5 movies selected that I'm not going to be talking about in our best of 2023 podcast that we'll be doing later this month. This is just going to be under the radar gems that we recommend you guys checking out that we're probably not going to be mentioning in our favorites of the year, but we still think these are worthy enough for you guys to go and watch and form your own opinions. So I got my 5. Nate, do you have your 5?
I have got 5 and at least 120 less than you.
Okay, fair enough. But do you want to say that for the back half of the show? Instead, we can maybe just jump into like some new releases and talk about some new release movies that just came out.
Oh, I'm down because these last few movies that I've seen in theaters have all been pretty good bangers. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm pumped to talk about it. Just cool theater experiences.
What the fuck? Oh yeah. I was like, what are you doing over there? Oh yeah. Oh, just caught me eating popcorn.
Eat my popcorn.
Go back to John. New releases here. So what do you want to talk about first? We have the Iron Claw, Maestro, and the Boy and the Heron. Which one do you want to dive into first? You're holding up
I want to talk
what looks
about
like an Iron Claw. All
the
right.
Iron Claw, because I know that was probably the last one you've seen, so it's pretty fresh.
I
love wrestling, so it's
saw it in theaters yesterday.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the Iron Claw, do you want to hear a quick story that happened to me on Friday?
Yeah, I like stories. I watch movies.
Okay. So Friday morning, over the past weekend, I was pet sitting these 2 dogs. I mean, the dogs, Phoenix and Maverick. And I had never pet sit Phoenix before. She's a puppy, 6 months old, and she's terrified of people. She will bark at you if you go over, if you go too near her. She's very skittish. Has a lot of anxiety. She's very scared of people. So she was not comfortable with me being around the house. So she was very scared about that aspect. And the second I had the door open a crack, out the door, bolted, gone. She just full sprints, gone out of the house. And this is like 9:30 in the morning, and this is 10 minutes after I ordered my tickets to go see the Iron Claw at like 11:30 p.m. So like I was like getting ready for like to go and see this on Friday, and then she's gone. and she can't come near me. So like, there's no way I was gonna be able to get her back. So I start chasing her. I chased her for 3 miles, all the way down from that house all the way to the beach. She goes all the way to
Oh
one end
my
of the
god.
beach, rounds the corner. I can't see her anymore. She is gone. So from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m., she was missing. We had almost the entire area looking for her. We had the police, the fire department. We had everyone looking for this dog. Brooke had to come home from work early. Uh, it was a shit show, but she was
Jesus.
found. Somebody luckily grabbed her and was able to grab. She was the leash was attached to her, so like someone was able to snatch her. But I was like, that's when I was supposed to go see the Iron Claw. And this happened. So
Phoenix. What the
yeah, it
heck?
was a total anxiety driven day. But I was happy to go and see the Iron Claw yesterday when all that stress was behind me. Anyways, back to the Iron Claw. So this was one of my most anticipated for the rest of the year. It got like a very late in the year release date, December 22nd. It was produced by A24. Had a pretty solid cast. I mean, you had Zach Efron, Jeremy Iron White, uh, you have Harris Dickinson and Holt. What's his name? Holt McCalney. He is just the most like intense actor in these previous projects, and the fact that he's playing the father is so perfect. I thought.
Yeah.
I
Fritz
was really
von
looking
Erich.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to checking it out because I don't really know this story, but I've heard that it's a very tragic story. I mean, 3 out of 4 of these brothers died, and it's just Kevin that lives on now, and it's just a tragic story. But they are what some of the most famous names in wrestling of all time. Nate, you know way more about wrestling. You could probably describe this story a little bit better.
Yeah, because like, and it shows it pretty well in the movie, but there was actually some facts that I learned about it that there was actually 6 brothers in the family. But
Right.
one of them wasn't into wrestling, so he was just kind of left out of the story because it wasn't as relevant. Um, but yeah, like Carrie Von Erich, the Jeremy Allen White character, he was the only one to really make it into big the big time. He made it to WWF and won a championship and everything. And the other brothers didn't make it that far. They kind of stuck in their Texas territory because wrestling was set up in different territories across the country. And so they
Yeah.
stayed fairly in Texas, but it was Kerry Von Erich who kind of I think he was the most famous brother, but in the movie they focus on Kevin, the older brother, and there's reasons why.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah,
he's the last surviving member of the family,
yes.
essentially.
And he's the
But
oldest. And so
yeah,
that's like devastating, but it just did a really good job at showing how ruthless the father is and how helpless the mother was and the
yeah.
bond that these brothers had. It was awesome.
The mother was extremely cold. Like, I
Mhm.
didn't really expect that. Like, the first indication of that scene was when, Kevin, played by Zac Efron, goes in, he's like, "Hey, can you talk to dad? He's being a little too hard on," was it Mike? The kid that was into
It was either
music?
Mike or David.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mike, and, she's like, "No, that's between you and your brothers. Like, any emotional stuff, any, like, issues like that is always between the brothers. Like, they weren't allowed to talk to their parents about emotions, and, they went to the funeral of David, and the dad's like, 'No tears. Men don't cry.' And he's just fighting the tears, and, like, that one shot with the mom too, like, standing in the mirror and just, like, trying to, like, suck her tears back into her skull. Just
Mhm.
it was so
That's why
heartbreaking.
that's why I think all of it was just orchestrated by the father. Like, he was so all perfection and toughness. The mom tried to show that as best as she could, but like you said, in that scene where she's looking in the mirror, she wants to break right down. Like, you just lost one of your flesh.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not? And she just tried so hard. And it was devastating because you would see these great highs that these brothers would reach, and then it would just immediately go to this devastating end to their life. And you're just, if you know wrestling, you know it's coming. And that's the hardest part because you want them all to succeed. But in reality, they were pushed a little hard and they toughed it out when they didn't need to necessarily, and that was just the world of wrestling in the 70s and 80s. It was kind of the man's man sport
Which is
back when it
interesting
was
because
sport and less entertainment, if that makes
right.
sense.
It's because I've never really understood wrestling, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
fascinated by it. I
Love
totally
it.
see
Mm-hmm.
how like athletic you have to be able to perform and do these crazy movements and I mean yeah they are athletes like without question, but the whole program behind wrestling of like them like back I love that scene backstage like before like the first match between it was Kevin and David and the other two like the other two guys and they're like talking about how they're going to do these moves and like you catch me here or something
Yeah.
like don't hit me too hard like I'm doing this and so like, they're working with it and they're like buddies and they're like yeah like let's have some fun, let's go and perform, and they go out and they just they are great. But then you have these like the title matches. Like I think the first one was with Kevin and what's his name? It was the
Ric
big,
Flair.
not Ric Flair. It was before that. It starts with an H or something.
A
It was
championship
when
match?
no, it was a title match or something, or like it was the big match for Kevin. It was his first big shot of like proving that he could go on, and he got slammed into
I
the
think.
concrete. He got thrown into the ring, and
Oh,
slammed into the concrete.
yes, and he like takes a long time getting up. I think that was against Bruiser Brody. Was the guy's
Okay.
name.
Um, but like
Because he
that
had
whole
like
thing,
wild hair, and he just drags him out of the ring, and he's like, "All right, kid, here we
like
go." And
did that guy just show up and just not take Kevin seriously and just like not do the things they rehearsed and just like he threw him out of the ring and like yeah like slammed him onto the concrete, like did they like that's what I don't get
a
about
lot of it,
wrestling, I guess.
a lot of it is improv. Like a lot of the pros, like if you watch all the or listen to the legends and how stuff happened, like Hulk Hogan and whatnot, they would just go into the ring and play, is how they
Yeah.
described it. And they would talk through the match and set up spots. Um, and that one, I believe it was Bruiser Brody who was supposed to be depicted. It was either them or the Hayes, the Freebirds. But yeah, they just concrete floors and they would do that. Um, Sometimes if like a wrestler was starting and they get a little too overzealous, they'll get what's called a receipt. So like say you're a new wrestler and you punch somebody and you accidentally hit them pretty hard, they're going to give you a receipt sometime in that match. They're going to hit you back or they're going to hit you with a chair or something just to
It,
prove like
it was Harley Race. That
that's
was
what it
that
was.
match.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Because
It
Harley
seemed like he
Race.
showed up and just was like, "Fuck this guy! Like, I'm just gonna, do illegal moves and get disqualified and not give him like a fair shot."
Yes. And that was because I forgot about that match, but it was because Harley Race in the day was the baddest man on the planet. Like everyone was afraid of him. You would go to a bar, and if something was to happen, Harley Race would step in and he would stop it. Like he was the champion's champion. Um, and yeah, he had that authority where he could just show up at a territory and go, "Oh, this is your guy. This is your big hero.
and
I'm gonna
destroy them.
beat him down." Yep,
Okay.
and that's.
So
But he played. There was not scripted, but it was just kind of like, all right, kid, you want to join the big leagues? You have to take it like one of us, and that's
okay.
why he kind of
So he
flipped the
started doing
script
moves
on
that
him.
like Kevin wasn't prepared for, like getting thrown out of the
Exactly.
ring, being slammed onto the concrete. Because like
Yep.
all that definitely seemed like a shock to him. And
Yep.
then that's the thing, like when
Called
they
a shoot.
go and have these like title matches or whatever they want to call them, I guess champion
Hmm.
matches, whatever. I'm like, it's planned out enough to like who was gonna win at the end. So that's why like when they cut to the dad who was like, show yourself, prove yourself, get that belt. It's like doesn't he know what's gonna happen throughout the match? I don't
So
know. That's why I was like fascinated by it, but because I don't get
yeah,
it.
the longer I've watched wrestling, the more I've kind of realized instead of it being planned, it's almost like it's like a passing of the torch. So say like Harley Race, say he was getting older type of thing, and he knew that someone younger and better might need to take over, they might not necessarily plan an ending to the match, more like a lead up.
Yeah.
And then they'll decide on the fly and be like, all right, you deserve this, kid. You get the 1, 2, 3. Like, I'll lay down for you. Hulk Hogan is infamous for not laying down for anybody, like at all. And if he got pinned, it would be so close that it could almost not count. But I thought it just did a really good job at just these tough guys in this locker room planning it out and then going out and just kind of putting on this show that they're essentially there to do. But they were real athletes. And you see it nowadays.
Oh, for sure.
Like, they're some of the most athletic people because they do this 250 days a year and they wrestle twice a night type of thing.
Yeah.
It's just
put their
it's
bodies
crazy.
through literal hell to do these stunts.
Like, I'm even wearing a wrestling shirt right now, like, because I'm ready for this. Yeah.
And well, so then when Carrie goes and wrestles Ric Flair after David dies, they obviously were like, okay, well, the storyline has to be Carrie takes the belt in honor of David. So then it's like, I don't know. Like, is there something about like just knowing that? It's just like kind of like, oh, like that. It takes away a little something for me to like. But that's just me being maybe ignorant. But I don't know.
I get it. Like, on the surface, it looks like, oh, it's taking that away. But at the time,
for the dad, at least, I'm only thinking for the dad's mentality of like putting these guys through hell and like killing off like most of his children for this belt. That's like you can orchestrate a way to get it without putting these guys through this torture. I don't know. So that's why I'm like rationalizing it a little bit, like too much. But
well, that's why they also had promoters and what they called bookers back in the day. They would book the matches. So I think when they said they wanted Carrie to go for the belt, it was like, he's gonna go for it. I don't think they said, oh, you're gonna win the belt type of thing, but it's like, this is your time. And so I think it was like they set it up so he's the next in line, but he probably didn't know he was winning it until he met with Flair or whoever to win that title at that time.
I thought the guy who played Ric Flair was a little
he was,
I don't know, it was a little weird for me because I do know who Ric Flair is.
I could have played a better Ric Flair. Like, that guy was not Ric Flair.
That guy was, I don't know what he was doing. That was like the one part of the movie where it was kind of like taken out of it a little bit. It didn't bother me too.
He tried, but he failed. Like, Ric Flair had a swagger to him.
There's only one Ric Flair.
Yeah, and his woos were fucking dreadful. I was like, at least show like you are trying, but he's not. They put him in a costume and said, all right, go pretend to be Ric Flair. Like, if I had like auditioned for this movie, oh, I can be Ric Flair. I've watched Ric Flair my whole life.
There you go.
But it was just a great one.
And watching the movie, and the movie's really focused on Kevin, Zac Efron, and he's definitely, I think he's the most jacked out of all of his brothers. He looks like the biggest, like, stereotypical wrestler, like action figure that you would play with. But he just wasn't good on the mic, right? Like, that's that had to have been the reason why he didn't go on to become like a champion, because he just couldn't he couldn't promote, I guess, or like he had a really hard time cutting promos, it seemed like, because his brother David had to step in and basically help out and save his ass a handful of times, and then kind of
there's some things like that where Kevin was I think Carrie was the best athlete, but
Olympic
Kevin
trainer,
was just but Kevin was just a beast. Like, Zac Efron made him look amazing,
like an action figure.
But but one thing threw me off though, because Jeremy Allen White is the shortest and he plays Carrie.
Is Carrie the tallest?
I'm pretty sure Carrie was like as tall as David, because you watch him back in the day and he was the Texas Tornado, like that's what they called him. And he was just huge.
I didn't know about Carrie's accident with his foot,
I
and
didn't either.
how
I
that was
didn't
just
either.
a
So,
secret, and he kept competing, and, like, that scene with him and Zac Efron out at night in the ring, and he keeps, like, falling,
mhm.
and Zac's like, "You're pushing it, don't do it." Like, that's a great scene, but I just had no idea that, like, that was just what he was going through. I mean, just yeah. The movie we haven't really talked about the movie itself. I loved the movie. I thought it was
Mhm.
fantastic. I think it's Zac Efron's best performance of his entire career. I don't know if he'll get an Oscar nomination for this. It's deserving,
I
but
don't think he will either.
I don't think he will. But I think it just kind of sucks that I feel like this movie should be talked about when it comes to the Oscar race compared to some of the other movies that are in discussion and contention. I think this movie is definitely up there with all those, and it's sad that this movie isn't getting that talk. Just
Yeah,
because I think everyone in the cast is fantastic. Maybe you'll get like a SAG nomination for just like the ensemble.
that'd be
That'd be
cool
like a sweet, you know, step in the right
because the
direction for maybe
cast is
some Oscars.
fantastic.
Yeah, the cast is incredible. Harris Dickinson as David was great. Even the kid that played Mike, the kid who's into music, I thought he was really good too. And he hasn't been in like anything else, and he was holding his own against everybody else. And the guy who played the dad, Fritz von Erich, I think he should
Yeah,
be strong contention for best supporting actor. But he's no one.
that'd
No
be
one is talking about
terrifying.
him at all. They're
Yeah,
saying Willem Dafoe and Mark Ruffalo from Poor Things give them both a nomination, but it's like no, get take Willem Dafoe
throw
out. I'm
someone else in
sorry.
there. Just
Give
yeah,
yeah, give this other guy a nomination because he was incredible. Just like that intensity just translated through the screen where it's like, oh my god, like can you imagine having the guy as like your coach, just like
ugh,
in high school
no thanks.
sports? Oh my, like I feel like I've had coaches like him before, and it's just like, oh god, it's so intense. And he
Yeah,
nailed it. I thought he was a great actor in this. So, and yeah, the story also is it's so tragic, it's so sad, and especially after the first half is kind of like you're riding this big like wave of like, oh, this is badass, this is fun, this is sweet, like they're doing what they are setting out to do, and then the
until
tragedy starts happening.
yeah,
So I can see people
and the
maybe being a
curse.
little like kind of like turned off by that second half and just being like, oh god, it was just so tragic and depressing. But I was I was fascinated by it. I love the story and performances were great, so I loved it. But you loved it too, I would imagine.
Yeah, I loved it. I don't want to give anything away as far as lists, but you'll see us talking about this for sure once it comes up because I was just it was 2 hours and what 10 minutes, something like that. I didn't feel it at all.
Yeah.
I was like, nope, this is right up my alley. It's doing everything I wanted it to do. It had one of my favorite scenes of the whole year, the
Okay.
one with huh?
I was just okay. I'm excited.
Oh yeah. No, it was the scene when Carrie comes out of the house, but he has his foot. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yep.
I knew that was coming. Like when I saw that, I went, okay, what's he gonna do? And then there was the boat, and I got the whole mythology of that, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I love
Oh yeah.
this.
Like this scene gave me chills. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, I loved it too.
So
Thanks, A24.
I went 4.5 out of 5. That's
Same.
same. Okay. All right.
Yep. Same.
All right.
Yep.
Just waiting for one more watch
Like I
to bump it up to a 5, you think?
and I think it could do it too.
Oh,
I think it was just me being picky with like story stuff, being like, oh, it wasn't exactly like that and stuff.
for
But
me,
it's a
it's strictly
movie.
the Ric Flair. That's it.
Yeah. Rick brought it down to half a star. If I skip that scene, then I might
Yeah,
give it a 5.
it was pretty noticeable when that happens in the movie.
Yeah.
But if you don't know who Ric Flair is, then it'll probably just get right off your head, and you won't care. But yeah,
Yep.
the
Not
Iron
at all.
Claw.
Just focus on the family. It's what it's about. So
Definitely watch this movie before you make your best of the year lists. I would say it's definitely one of the kind of the under the radar gems of the year that not a lot of people are talking about, but it just came out, so maybe word of mouth will continue. All right, so want to move on to this one we can just do real quick. Do the boy and the
okay.
heroine.
Yeah, it's been a little bit for me. So yeah.
Boy and the Heron. All right. Yeah,
Miyazaki, the
I
king.
watched this movie. When did I watch this? I watched this December 16th. So it's been a couple of
Oh
weeks
shoot.
since I've seen this.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say mine was around then, I think.
yeah, I was really excited to check this movie out. I mean, we have been pretty big Studio Ghibli fans. Nate, I think, was
Hmm.
the well, technically Nate was the first one to really be like, "All right, watch more than just Spirited Away," because that was the only one I really had seen at the time, and we had
Yeah.
seen like way more like My Neighbor Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service, and so went on a deep dive, especially when COVID happened. My girlfriend and I went on a deep dive on HBO Max of all the Studio Ghibli movies, and just kind of fell in love with all of them. My personal favorites got to be My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, and I actually love Howl's Moving Castle. I know that's not like your
Hmm.
favorite or anything, but I loved that
Yeah.
movie. But
The thing I didn't
um
like about it was just it was a lot of stuff just packed into a 2-hour movie, and I was just like, all right, settle down.
and
Like
The
my
Boy and the
favorite's
Heron.
Porco Rosso.
Okay,
So
Porco Rosso.
yeah.
Okay. That's a great one. That's a really fun one. But The Boy and
Michael
the Heron
Keaton.
is probably the most Hayao Miyazaki movie ever.
Hmm.
It is the
Oh,
most
it's up there with Spirited Away, I think, as like just Miyazaki taking a fairy tale and just
just a
making a world out of it.
Japanese fever dream of crazy images and scenes and characters.
Giant parakeets.
Giant parakeets voiced by Dave Batista, and a heron that's also a person that pops out of its mouth when it has a hole in its
Which
beak.
is terrifying. Like
Very weird. Voiced by
Miyazaki
Robert
can make it look
Pattinson.
so scary. Like, ugh, I don't want to look at
um,
this.
so I was really looking forward to mainly seeing a new film from Hayao Miyazaki from Studio Ghibli uh, in theaters. It had a wide release scheduled, and I don't know if I had seen a Studio Ghibli movie in theaters before. So this one, I was really excited to go and check it out. Went and saw it, and I gotta say, when I walked out, I was really overwhelmed by it. I wasn't sure
Same.
how I was supposed to feel with it. I was like, I know I liked it. I know I was like entertained and like entranced by the whole thing, but it was just very it was a lot to take in on a first watch, I would
Mhm.
say. And I definitely want to watch it again, but the more time that's gone on, the more I've reflected on it and it's been like, okay, that movie was very special. That is a very
Mhm.
unique treat to go and see that movie in theaters. 'Cause compared to all the other stuff that comes out in theaters, it's so different than anything else you've ever seen before. Just the way they tell the story, the way it's
It's quiet,
animated, yeah,
just
the
very
music.
peaceful, and yeah.
It was just
It,
so fascinating. So I really liked it overall, but I'd love to see it again. But what did you think?
I think my problem with the first time was I think I went in hoping to love it. And not saying I didn't really, really like it when I watched it, but I think I went in with too high of an expectation because I love most of the Studio Ghibli movies. Um, but there's obviously some I haven't seen. But yeah, as I think about it, I love how Miyazaki can just take a really grounded story about this boy moving in with his new mom and just opening up this new world. It relates a lot to My Neighbor Totoro in that way. Just they move
Yeah.
to a new place and then they kind of unravel this mystery that's going on. And then once you're in it, you're in it. And it's just there were scenes where the kid's just walking around the house and it's just quiet in the theater. Well, until the guy answered his phone.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Another
answered his
instance.
phone and just talked and talked. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" But
I would have screamed.
it just, yeah, it just, thankfully, it pulled me back and a little convoluted when it gets towards the third act, as far as like the world building and knowing who created it type of thing. But there were just some scenes where like my jaw dropped and I just smiled. Like when you see the little fluff balls flying into
Yeah,
the air, I was just
exactly.
like, mesmerized, and just seeing it on the big screen and just knowing that people drew this and they animated it and it just looks so clean. I was in awe. Like the scene where
Right.
he's running through the town and there's fire
Oh, the opening?
everywhere.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I
That's
was
so
just like,
cool.
"Oh my," so overwhelmed, and then you get sent to this dreamscape, just this quiet home in the hills, and it's just it just makes you feel so many different emotions.
Right.
It's crazy.
The movie was far more existential and deep than what I was thinking it was going to be going in. Because I mean, with Studio Ghibli, you do get like adult themes with these kid movies, and some Studio
Mhm.
Ghibli movies are PG-13, like is it Princess
Mononoke.
Mononoke?
Yep, yep.
That one's PG-13. I forget if there's another one, but this is PG-13. Um,
Okay, I know there's, like, one called Pompoko, I think is PG-13. It's about, like, raccoon people. It's
oh, okay. I don't know if I've even
yeah.
seen that.
It's really weird because there's a scene in it where they all run
I've heard
around and
of
they
it.
bounce on their balls, like, literally. They have, like, giant testicles, and they just bounce around on them.
Okay. That
Yeah,
sounds entertaining.
but that's
Um,
beside the point.
but yeah, but once you go into kind of the dream world odyssey, it just becomes so wild and so imaginative and just so unlike anything you'd really seen before. And when this movie came out, this was December 8th, I think, when it got a wide release in the States. The week before, the number one movie in the box office was Godzilla minus one, the Japanese film that got a wide release, and then a Japanese anime film comes out the week later and is number one in the box office. So it just shows
Yeah.
like films from Japan are just all of a sudden come over here two weeks in a row, knocking out of the park, making so much money, and they're two movies that are not really well, I mean, Godzilla minus one. I think anybody can watch that movie and have a great time and enjoy it. It's just such a
Yeah.
well-made film, or well-rounded film. But Boy and the Heron, it's like you wouldn't see Disney put this movie out, or like
Mm-mm.
Sony Animation or anything like that, or like a movie with this level of like these themes and the depth that it goes to. So I really respected the hell out of this movie, and I really liked that it was number one in the box office because it just shows that like people are getting tired of the same Marvel Disney live action remake, just the same recycled blueprint that you see 1,000 times over again. It's like, no, like give us a movie that actually challenges us and makes us think. Like doesn't hold our hands the entire way from the beginning to end and spoon feed us this ending as we get to go home and go back to our lives. So just like let us go back to our lives and reflect and think, be like challenged. So I
And
liked that
you
this movie
yeah,
did it.
yeah, you said that and it hit the nail on the head because sure, when you go to a movie and you watch it, you like stuff to resolve. You want to know, "Oh, that's the outcome. Things are
Yeah,
happy,
I
la di
like
da
it.
di
I
da."
like it. Yeah,
I like going to a movie, leaving and going, "I wanna watch." It gives you a reason to watch it again because now that saw everything, I got all my visuals done, now I can watch it again and get the meaning more, start to
right.
understand different aspects, like the whole thing with the mom and all the different doors that they have to go through that lead to different worlds, but the minute you let go of that door handle, you're stuck. And
Yeah,
so just them being able to play with reality and the dream, um, just yeah, all these different meanings. Like a kid who kind of like I think not a lot of kids, but some people when they have a step parent, they kind of resent them at first. But as the movie goes on, you kind of realize you just have to open up a little bit and realize that it's not their fault. It's nothing that you can control. And so it's very heavy on that kind of adult theme, like kids going through that phase where they're not necessarily kids anymore and they have to accept these things as reality. And just Miyazaki hits it out of the park with just these really casual beginning and ends. It just going into a bedroom and then leaving. It's almost like the perfect bookend to a story. Like, oh, he just left. let's sit on it for a second, and then it fades to black. It's just like it's like you're falling asleep almost,
it's
and
just
it's that dream.
you're just watching a master just like at his peak. We're just like cranking it out. And I love that the original title is called How Do You Live? It makes so much
And
more
it should have
sense
been
when you've
that.
seen the movie.
Oh,
And yeah, I don't know. So I definitely want to watch this movie again when it comes out on Blu-ray. I'm sure I'll pick it up, or watch it whenever it
oh
comes out
yeah,
on HBO Max. But yeah, this one it challenged me. I really enjoyed it. So I went 4.5 out of 5 over time. I initially walked out. I was
ooh,
like, I'm thinking like 3.5 or a 4, but just over time, it stuck with me, and it's made me think about other movies that I saw this year. It's like, no, I've been thinking about this movie more than like 80% of the other movies I watched this year. So
yeah,
that's why I got to
yep,
give it the credit that it deserves. So 4.5 out of 5. I can't wait to watch this one again and see what I get out of it.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I'm a little lower. I gave it a 4 just because I
I'm
felt
kind
like
of
there
there
was
too. Yeah.
so much to kinda undress, and, like, the whole thing in the castle with the giant parakeets and the guy creating the universe type of thing. I was just like, "Okay, where
Right.
did this come from? Because this
Well,
isn't how it started."
it's Miyazaki reflecting on the empire that he's created with Studio Ghibli. That's how I looked
Yeah,
at it.
and him
Yeah,
passing it off and
passing the
being like,
torch.
"You're the
Yeah.
next one," because his son does make movies.
Yeah, he made
Um
a terrible terrible movie a couple years ago. I've never watched it, but it has, like, terrible reviews. It's, like,
Oh, really?
something Earwig or something,
Oh, ear it's
you
yes,
know what
it
I'm
was
talking
that,
about,
like,
yeah.
that really weird animation mixed with reality
Earwig
type
and the
of
Witch
yes.
has a
I was gonna say
28% on Rotten
Hedwig
Tomatoes.
and the Angry Itch.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, 20% Rotten Tomatoes, 4.8 on IMDb. It's one of the lowest rated Studio Ghibli
His name's
movies out
Goro,
there.
right? Goro
Goro
Miyazaki?
Miyazaki. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he
So
made a
I haven't
movie
watched
called
it.
Tales from Earthsea that isn't the biggest Studio Ghibli movie, but it's very fantasy driven. Um, but yeah, if I watch this, I could easily see this being a 4.5 and maybe even a 5, because I would love for Miyazaki's last movie to just be like the perfect send off. Like, if this is his last movie, who knows? He could live to
Right.
be 120 and make Goro the caterpillar like I wanted him to. Um but yeah, it's just one of those ones that it makes you think, but it makes you glad that it's there, and it makes you want to watch it a second time. And I think that's what we need from movies nowadays, is people to think and want to be at the
Right.
theater and not just go to Marvel movies.
There's so many movies that come out. A lot of them just kind of go right in one year or right out the other. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
did that even come out this year? Creed 3? Was that 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh no, it was
No, it was
9
not.
months ago. Yeah, I don't know. Not to diss Creed 3. Creed 3 was a good time, but
Yeah.
anyways. All right, so that was Boy and the Heron. Definitely watch it when it comes out on HBO Max or get the Blu-ray. Or if you've seen it, let us know what you think. Has it what, like a 93% Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah, I
80%
think
audience?
so.
It's doing
It's
just
pretty
fine.
big.
All right, so the last new release movie that we'll have a little discussion on is the new Bradley Cooper film, Maestro, or as Emma
Ooh,
Stone says, Maestro. Did you see that clip?
I didn't.
Oh, it's pretty funny. You know how Variety do those like actors on actors interviews that are like
Yeah.
30, 40 minutes. They sit in like a chair with a white rim. Bradley
Yep.
Cooper and Emma Stone were paired, and
Ah.
she just kept on saying Maestro, and it was great. Um, anyways, Maestro. This is a biopic of Leonard Bernstein. He is the composer of, or he created the music behind West Side Story. He did Taxi Driver. He did operas. He did Broadway plays. He did a whole bunch of classic music that I'm sure you've heard in other pieces of work before in other movies or whatever. But apparently he lived a pretty crazy life. He was bisexual, but he was married to was it Felicia, played by Carey Mulligan, for very many years. It was the love of his life, and you just kind of see the man behind, like, the
The
work,
nose.
yeah,
Oh.
the nose, yeah, the the deviated septum, Leonard Bernstein. um, but yeah, no, this was a huge movie to kind of have on your radar because it was Bradley Cooper's next directorial effort behind A Star Is Born. He wrote, directed, starred, and produced this movie. You have Steven Spielberg also producing the movie. You have Martin Scorsese also producing the movie. This
They're
was a
pushing
movie
hard.
that was in development for a very long time. With Spielberg, who was going to direct it initially. Um, a lot of people were trying to get this movie made, and eventually Bradley Cooper got the rights because he made Star Is Born. He showed a cut to Spielberg, and Spielberg's like, "You're doing Maestro." And he's like, "Okay." So that's how that happened. So now we have
Damn.
this 2 hour and 20-minute biopic of Leonard Bernstein. Bradley Cooper essentially begging for an Oscar. That's
And
how else you could call
if
this
he
movie.
doesn't win it, she should, because
Yeah.
she is
Yeah.
just, she melts and blends into any role that you give her, and it's almost unfair that she's that good.
Carey Mulligan
Um,
is phenomenal in everything that she's been in. You saw She Said last year, right?
yes, and
Just
she
like
was
out of
a
nowhere. Just
force.
fantastic. Yeah.
She
Like,
was a force to be
yeah.
reckoned with. But
Yeah.
there was just seeing this relationship go up and down and up and down, and how they try to fight through it, and it sends a really good message that if you can just fight through things and be there for each other, you can somewhat live a happy life. Like, they went through some really tragic stuff, but they were always, like, to the end, felt like best friends. Like, they
Yeah.
could talk to each other, they were there for each other. Um, and it starts off really cool in the movie because he's sitting there playing this piano chord, and then it shows you that he's being filmed, and then you go, "Oh, this is how they're gonna do it," and then you see the black and white when they're in the past, and as it builds up, they add the color to it. It just, Bradley Cooper knows how to direct a movie, and there was that shot in the opera house where the camera, like, goes down from the top and it goes way
Oh,
out
yeah,
and
that
it
big
zooms
sweeping
back in on him. I
techno
was just
crane
like,
shot. Yeah, that
yeah, I
was
was
pretty
like,
sweeping.
"Holy crap." Like it should get a cinematography nomination just for that shot alone.
Yeah, it was,
Um,
shot by Matthew Libatique, who did Star Is Born, and, he did The Whale last year. He's done
ooh.
a lot of movies with Darren Aronofsky as well. Yeah, his I don't know, because at times the cinematography was very just reserved, very just like kind of just it's on a tripod, not really moving the camera, and then other times it was these like big sweeping like techno crane shots. So like,
Mhm.
but for the most part, like the camera work was very just simple. Like the one scene where the big scene, I guess, where he's doing that big conducting piece. It's like 6 minutes long.
In the church, that's
He
my favorite scene of the movie
trained for
is
6 years, Bradley Cooper, on, like, how to conduct and how to be able to pull that scene off. But the camera work was it was great, but it was just, like,
subtle.
it was on tracks. It's very slow, just kinda push, and, they landed perfectly, behind Carey Mulligan's shoulder too, right as it ends. It worked
Yep.
really well, but it was just the timing was great. Um, and Cooper is begging for an Oscar in something, whether it's directing, whether it's producing, whether it's writing, whether it's performing. He's gonna get, I think, an Oscar for this movie. I hope it's Best Actor. I don't think the script was as is that good, to be honest. I don't know. I was a little disappointed with
Pretty standard
the
biopic.
story. I mean, you can only do so much with a biopic, and the movie chose to kind of do it it started off with a very distinct style, then it kind of just became little vignettes of his life,
Mhm.
like in the end, and it kind of felt like it lost its steam a little bit in the last, or maybe midway through to the third act. Because I've watched it twice now, and the
Where
first
he's, like,
half is just
teaching
so
and stuff.
strong and so sweeping. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you have that scene where they go to the theater and like he's in like a sailor outfit and like all these other people or performers are there and they're doing this whole
Oh,
routine
yeah.
and tap dancing and like she's just sitting there watching it and like it's very like over the top kind of like it has a fun style to it. And there's another scene when she gets off a bus when you first see Felicia, she gets off a bus way in the distance and camera's just right there on the tripod and she slowly just walks into frame and this like crazy music piece is just blasting like throughout the whole
Mhm.
scene. Oh, she's just
Felt
walking up
like
to
a
the
s
camera, but it's like
Yeah,
the
it
most
felt like a
over the
50s
top.
movie.
Yeah, the most over the top like score you'll ever hear. Um, and it's just very crazy. But then the third act is just very quiet, very reserved, very I don't know, they kind of lose its steam a little bit, I thought, towards the end. But maybe that was deliberate. But for yeah, Bradley Cooper making a second movie, and he made this. I think this is a
Yeah.
better made film than Star is Born. Um, he has a huge career in directing, and I just, if anything, this movie made me so excited that he's able to pull off movies to this caliber, and that
Yeah.
he's able, yeah, that he's literally able to do this at this
Mhm.
level. So I was very impressed by this movie, even though I didn't love it. But I think
Mhm.
that Bradley Cooper, I'm gonna say it right now, I think he's the front runner to win Best Actor.
And I can kind of agree with you. I'd have to look at other performances and kind of put them side by side. But
Paul
he's the
Giamatti,
one
The
that, like,
Holdovers, Bradley Cooper, Maestro, Killian Murphy, Oppenheimer. Like that's the three.
yeah, and it's just it's hard to not give it to Cooper because he plays such a good mixed character. Like the
He's
whole scene
layered
where
for
he
sure.
answers the phone and gets like, "Oh, I'm gonna conduct the first time," and then you see what he's about, and then you just see him talking, and that scene of him conducting,
Oh
that would
yeah,
be his Oscar one, where they just show
and
him sweating and just
oh yeah, just like fully into it.
going all in.
And the Oscars love actors that like transform into like a whole like in the prosthetics and makeup. Like they love that kind of like those types of
Jessica
performances. You see like
Chastain
Jessica Chastain,
did
exactly.
it,
Eyes of
and
Tammy Faye. You see the Brendan Fraser, The
Brendan
Whale.
Fraser. Yep.
Yeah, you see it a lot pop up with like actors that kind of went through the most amount of like transformation on screen, whether it's like old like Gary Oldman for The Darkest Hour.
Yeah.
So like
Mhm.
I could, that's why I could see Cooper maybe actually getting this win because of that. Because then you
Yep.
have Paul Giamatti, who was phenomenal in The Holdovers, and Killian Murphy, who's phenomenal in Oppenheimer. They're they just don't have like what Cooper did in this movie to maybe
Yeah.
get them that win. So
Like,
we'll
I
see.
think
And
Cillian
also the
Murphy was a
aspect
little one note.
could
He
be,
wasn't,
yeah.
but as far
Well,
out of the 3 of them, I think he was the most stoic.
yeah,
Paul Giamatti was just
he was
a
funny and
godsend.
yeah, yeah.
"That's a detention, Mr. Tully."
But there were literal times, but aside from Bradley Cooper's distinct blue eyes, where you could just tell it's Bradley Cooper, but there were times where
Yeah.
I literally was like, "Oh, it's Leonard Bernstein on screen. I'm watching this man, talk about his life here."
Mhm.
I did forget at times, just 'cause he did transform into this guy, and he wrote, directed, starred, and produced the movie. I mean, that's a feat of its own. That's incredibly impressive. So, I think the Academy will finally recognize him despite him having 9 Oscar nominations to his name already. And with Maestro finally coming out, I think it's going to bump him up to like what 13 or 14 nominations, which is insane to do in a 10-year period.
And then
So
only
I think
have
he'll,
1 win or so, like
or still have 0 wins at the moment. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll love to see it happen. So I saw it twice, and both times I went 4 out of 5. I think this is a
I
really
did as
solid
well.
movie. Okay.
Yeah, I
Very
did
nice.
as well. He just, like, I think he did, who was I trying to kinda I compared it a little bit to, Kristen Stewart in Spencer for me, at least. The way you kind of forget that you're looking at this actor and they blend into the person that they're playing. And it felt a lot like that with this, because I thought the makeup was subtle enough to where, yeah, it's Bradley Cooper, but when he does certain things and with his voice, you would go, oh no, that's not Bradley Cooper. And yeah, he just did a really good job with it. And if he gets his Oscar, bravo, because it was deserved.
Telling you, I think it is going to happen. New Year's Day, January 1st, 2023. Oscar nominations haven't even come out yet.
2024.
2024. Yeah, that's what I meant. I am calling Bradley Cooper, Oscar winner, Bradley Cooper for Maestro. All right, so that was Maestro. That's it for new releases. I mean, go to our Letterboxd diaries for the full breakdown of all the movies and new releases that we have watched this month. But it is time now to move into our top 5 under the radar films of 2023. We have 5 each. We're just going to kind of go through movies that we think that you guys should check out. These are movies that we really, really enjoyed, if not loved, that just might not show up in the Best of the Year podcast that we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks, all 3 of us here. These are going to be movies that just, we think that you are still deserving of you checking it out. And all my movies are streaming. You can go and watch these movies like on Prime and Hulu and stuff. So, yeah.
Same, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
So, just take a listen here of these under the radar picks from us. And if you guys have any under the radar films that you think that we should check out, chances are we've seen them. But if not, I'd love to know what you think that we should check out.
Try and check them out before the end of the year. I got over the, it's 2024, I can't watch 2023 movies now. No, there's still, I still need to see Poor Things.
Yeah.
There's a bunch that I still need to see. But these movies are definitely, they might not be in the top 10, but I enjoyed watching them all.
All right. So mine are in no particular order. I think yours is the same, no particular order.
Yeah, like I could put one at the one spot, but at this point, if they're not going to be in the top 10, then it doesn't really matter.
All right. So why don't you go with your first pick? Your first under the radar.
Mine is under the radar to the point where when I brought it up, you and John didn't even know this was a movie.
Okay. Half the reason why I'm glad we're doing this is because now I can go and check these movies out before we do the podcast in a couple weeks. All right.
It was on Netflix. It was I want to say Taiwanese movie called You and Me and Me. Basically about these. It's funny because it's about these 2 twin sisters. One's named You and one's named Me. And they go to stay with,
also named Me.
Nope, that's just, it's you are me and you and me are the you and me. Does that make sense?
Brandon.
Brandon, yeah. No, Bradley.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just one of those movies that I was like, it's 2023. I need to watch something tonight. And I watched it and it almost broke me. Because I'm going to say it right up front. These aren't 2 twins. It's one girl playing 2 characters. And when I found that out, I almost cried because I was so attached to both of these characters.
Yes. 2 different characters? Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah. And when I found out that they weren't 2 people, I was devastated because I was so attached to them. And it's basically one of the sisters falls in love with a boy. They end up switching spots and he falls in love with the different one. And it's one of those weird love triangles that you would have with twins. But it is just such a coming of age, just feel good movie, family dynamics. There's also a little divorce involved. So that's probably why I liked it. But just the performances, the beautiful scenery of Taiwan or Korea. I'm not sure exactly where, because it doesn't even say in the thing, but it was just, I felt so good watching it. And when you're almost devastated that one of the characters isn't alive in real life, I was like, aw, and my heart just sank. But the line on Letterboxd, it says is first love of the 3 of us. So it's
okay,
kind of a love triangle, but I would watch it. You might find it kind of cheesy, but it's one of those coming of age ones that's just, it feels so good.
I definitely want to check it out, and especially you were highly you were talking about this pretty highly the other couple weeks ago, but I started
I gave
laughing
it a
in the
four
middle
and a
of that
half.
because
I
yeah,
gave it a
exactly.
4.5 out of 5. Yeah,
I
so
start I
it's
started
just
laughing when you were talking about this because it sounded like very sweet and it sounded like a very like nice kind of heartwarming movie to check out. And then
and it
behind
is.
you over your right shoulder is just a bunch of Native Americans being murdered and skinned and like scalped. Like it was so
Yeah,
horrific
but Colin
to
Farrell's
watch
there,
that
so
over
it
your shoulder as you're talking about this sweet, innocent movie about love. It was just a little contradicting, but that's why you should watch us on YouTube for our
watch
podcasts.
You and Me with You and Me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I wrote that down. I will be checking that one out on Netflix soon.
Yep.
My under the radar pick is a movie that I kind of have been telling you to check out. I don't think you eventually watched it. I don't think you did. But it is Sanctuary on Hulu. It's
I haven't.
Christopher
I know
Christopher
it's
Abbott,
yeah.
Margaret Qualley. Takes place in one apartment or one hotel room, kind of on one location. But the script is phenomenal. Like it's one when it ended, I literally was like, wow, that script was just very unique and very cool. What a well
Mhm.
written script, and I don't usually say
Yeah.
that after a movie, so it stood out to me
Yeah.
in that regard. And the performances are great. It's weird. It's kind of I don't know. It'll I don't know. I think it'll hold your interest, and it has some twists and turns that are very entertaining. So I definitely recommend this one. If you haven't seen it,
On
it's
Hulu,
on
right?
Hulu. Yeah, so
Okay.
Sanctuary.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
worth your watch. All right,
All right.
that was mine. Your other one?
Okay. So my I'll say number 4, but it's just because it's the next one. Um, so this one I had no idea what it was. I just saw it and I was like, oh, it's an hour and 20 something minutes. Let's watch it. It's a movie called Mutt. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Yeah, yeah, it's on Netflix, right? Mutt.
Yes.
Is it a
Yeah,
transgender
it is.
story? Okay,
It
I have
is.
heard of
Yeah,
this.
it's about a girl who transitions. She's a trans male and she lives in New York City, and over this one couple day period, or it might just be like a lengthy 24-hour period, she has he has three very crucial interactions with people in his life that
Okay.
like kind of reflect on when he was a she and how people feel about it and how he's perceived as a person. It's just kind of it really digs in deep to what a trans person is feeling, what they have to go through on a daily basis. And it's just a good, I think it's not necessarily a coming of age movie, but just these interactions that she has with the people in her life are just so profound. And do I keep saying she because I know it's he?
I think you said yeah. You're
Um,
saying she. Yeah.
okay, I mean he is fantastic in it, and just the way that the the people that he interacts with and how they remember him when he was a her, and how everyone feels about it and the relationships involved. It's quite heavy, but it was such an easy watch because it was just about an hour and a half and heartwarming. There was some heartwarming moments, but there was also some sad ones. But it was one of those ones that came out of nowhere. I watched it and I really, really liked it. So
Okay.
go watch Mutt. Yeah.
It's actually been on my list because I mean I've been trying to watch as many 2023 movies as I can the last couple of months, and that came across my radar, and I
Mm-hmm.
almost watched it one of the nights, and then I think I went with something else. So I will check the one out, especially hearing that you
It
liked it
is
and it was
good.
good. Perfect.
Yep.
All right. My other under the radar gem, my second one, or I guess fourth, whatever, no particular order. My second under the radar film is a movie that I think you have seen. You definitely saw it. Um, it doesn't have the best reviews, and that's okay. But it came out during the weekend of Barbenheimer, so it got buried, and it actually is so much fun. I've watched it twice. I've recommended it to a lot of people, and one person came back after watching it, and he's like, "That was the most mid horror movie I think I've ever seen." And I was like, "Yeah, but it was fun, right? It's Cobweb."
Oh
I just
God.
had so much
Ugh.
fun with this movie. The camera work is just ridiculous. Like the camera shots,
Gives me
the lighting, the
chills.
use of shadows is just crazy. The the story, like what actually is happening in the third act, especially, is just so ridiculous. Such a fairy tale. Um, and it's just so much fun. Lizzie Kaplan turns in probably the most over the top performance I've maybe ever seen from her, at
Mhm.
least. And it's 88 minutes. It's a quick watch, and it's just a fun horror movie. And you know, you have fun horror movies that come out every now and then. You had like Smile last year, but you have a lot of horror movies that come out that are just totally forgettable, like Boogeyman or anything. This one I've thought
Mhm.
about a lot just because of just how creative it was and like how it was shot. So, and the performances especially. So, and the commitment to the story. So
Yeah.
that's why I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. But reviews have not been kind. But I think this is worth your watch.
Look what you've done to your mother. And then, oh, that freaked me out so bad when they're in the bedroom and then she's sitting there with that creepy smile. Oh, ugh. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like it. I don't like it a lot. I don't like it. I don't like it.
All right. Well,
All
Cobweb.
right.
I definitely recommend this one. It's on Hulu, so go and watch it. All right. What's your third?
So this one is pretty well known, like a very famous director, very famous movie. But I just don't think it gets talked enough as far as his filmography. And it's probably my number two of his filmography. It's Asteroid City. Because
Oh,
I sat and watched that one day, and I loved the setting of it, just in this desert landscape. I loved the over the topness of like the kids. Like they're these four really smart kids that just have their own world outside of what their parents are doing. And it's just got that quirky Wes Anderson humor that just some of his movies didn't quite hit for me. Um, but this one hit it right on the head. Like the whole thing with the alien, like coming down, looking at
that
them,
was a great
and
moment.
then
Yeah.
disappearing. And they're just like, what did we just see? We have to talk about what we just saw. And just a matter of fact about it. Tom Hanks is great. Jason Schwartzman's great. Maya Hawke is great, and she's hardly in it. Um, it's just it's one of those casts that's just it's Wes Anderson, but it just works. Very pastel colors. I love that poster. I wish that I would just paint my wall to look like that. Um, because it's just cool. It's just like atomic era, just goodness, and it's just under Grand Budapest Hotel for me.
Okay. Damn. I gotta rewatch it
Yeah.
then because I liked it. Didn't love it. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. So I mean, I definitely I really liked it for sure. But I just
Yeah. I gave it a
something
4.
about it. Maybe I just had high expectations. Maybe my
Mhm.
expectations were just astronomical and it didn't meet it. Um, because for me personally, I think the the shorts that he did were better
Ooh,
than Asteroid City. Like the
those were
Wonderful
good.
Story of Henry Sugar. You have the Swan, Ratcatcher, and Poison. I thought all those were phenomenal. I love them, but
Mhm.
this one, I think I was maybe I just had just too high expectations, or just maybe was there was one scene in particular. It was when they started doing that like alien song that's like a country song. The kid just gets up and
Mhm.
starts dancing. I'm like, what the fuck is this movie? Like, this is so just Wes Anderson just kind of indulging a little too hard right now. But I don't know.
Yeah, I get it.
Maybe another watch
Yeah.
will help. But as people have been making their best of the year lists, this has popped up on a lot of people's lists, and I kind of had forgotten about it. I was like, oh yeah, I mean, maybe I should rewatch that again. So
It's fun.
maybe
It's
one
just a
day.
fun watch. Yeah.
It is. It's on Amazon Prime, so it's very easily accessible, and you can go and check it out and form your own opinion. So, all right,
Yeah.
Asteroid City, right under Grand Budapest Hotel for you. Damn. All right, that's your
Up
favorite.
there with Moonrise Kingdom too. Yeah, Grand Budapest Hotel, and then I might say Asteroid City and Moonrise Kingdom are pretty head to head. But
Okay.
yeah.
My third pick. I've recently been going through all the Film Independent Spirit Award nominees. I've been going through all
Mhm.
those screeners, and this one was a movie that wasn't even on my radar. Had never even heard of this movie, and I just randomly put it on. Didn't even know what it was about. Watched it and was just blown away. And I think it's in my top maybe 25 of the year.
Mhm.
So maybe I don't think I was going to be talking about it in the best of the year, but I saw recently Barack Obama does these like his favorite movies of the year, his favorite books, favorite music, whatever. He always posts that,
Yeah.
and I always am very curious to see what his favorite movies are of the year because he has these like I don't know, he aligns a lot with like the independent film and stuff, and I kind of like to see
Mhm.
what he picks. And 1001 was on it, so I was like, oh shit, okay, that's interesting. And this movie is very, very good. Um, I highly
I
recommend
have
it.
almost watched that many times. Many
Really,
times.
definitely
Yes.
watch it because Tiana Taylor is a movie star. She plays the mom in the movie. It's basically about a struggling mother who has a kid in foster care, and she makes a bold decision in like the early '90s. Like she's like, "Do you want to come live with me?" He's like, "Yes." And then she escapes. She escapes on the run with her son, and they go off to try to have a life together. And it's a really intense movie. The score is incredible. I love the score. The performance, though, Tiana Taylor, it was nominated for Best Breakthrough Performance. Um, and I think Best First Film or something like that in the Indie Spirit Awards. It is so good. It's very powerful. Some great scenes in the movie, and yeah, just it's a star-making performance with Tiana
Mhm.
Taylor, who hasn't really been in anything beforehand. She's yeah, Coming to America 2, White Man Can't Jump on Hulu. She's a dancer or a musician, but this was like her first
Mm.
kind of lead performance, and she just knocks it out of the
Dang.
park. So
Yep, I've almost watched that a few times.
highly recommend. So I think 1001 it was very good. Was not even on my radar until it got nominated. So yeah,
Heck yeah.
it's good for sure. So
Alright.
that's my third pick. What's yours?
So my
What's your
yeah,
fourth
so
pick?
my fourth pick, you actually kind of brought it up earlier in the podcast, and I was surprised it came up. Um, is Creed 3.
Really?
I've enjoyed all of the Creed movies, but the thing that I like about this one is the fact that when it gets to the fight at the end, it's less about the spectacle and more about the inner battle that him and his friend are having of like trying to one up each other. And Jonathan Major, no matter what kind of person he is in his real life, um, does an excellent job at just being this villain that's from Adonis's past and just coming in and kind of derailing everything. And Michael B. Jordan directing this did a great job for his first movie. I'd like to see what he does with other movies that he's passionate about. Not the best of the three. I still think the first Creed is the best one. It's just the most passion. But this one has got a lot of personal heart and a lot of good personal growth that just I like in these types of sport movies where it's not necessarily about the spectacle, but it's about the inner fight that they're having. And it has a great scene of them where they're just boxing each other in a blackout stadium where there's no one. It's just it was interesting how they shot that, and I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that Michael B. Jordan was a huge fan of anime, and he brought a lot of that
Hmm.
type of influence with his directing style. Yeah, I wasn't that interested in Creed 3 when it got announced. Just I was like, really, we're gonna keep doing them. Like I loved Creed 1 when it came out, and then Creed 2 it was good. I liked it, and then Creed 3, I was just like, "Ah, like really, we're gonna keep going. Stallone's not even involved.
Yeah.
But then I was like, yeah, Michael B. Jordan's directing, so I was like, oh, okay, that I'm always
Mhm.
interested when a actor or anyone's making a directorial debut just to see what kind of style they have and like how they approach the craft. And I thought he had a lot of style, and he showed like he made a movie that seemed like it was made by a seasoned director. Like he
Yeah.
definitely
Hmm.
seemed like he knew what he was doing, and I cannot wait to see. what he does with a different story, maybe like an original story or something like that. Because I'd love to see that kind of style. But then again, Creed 3 definitely kind of it needed something new in terms of like of how to show boxing. I mean, you've had all the Rocky movies, you had Creed one, this is the third in the Creed movies. It's like you got to do something a little bit different when it comes to like the boxing because it gets stale. So like I love the whole like let's take out the crowd, just focus on them, isolate the sound effects, like do those cool slow mo shots like the sweat flying off the back and like having like the cages like a prison cell surround the boxing ring. Like they just did some really cool stuff that I really did appreciate. So yeah, it's a good pick. I use Creed 3 as like a punching bag joke, but I do really like it. I saw it. I think I also saw that one twice this year. So yeah,
hell yeah,
it's a good watch. That brings me to my number 4. Okay,
4, yes.
This is another movie that has a Indie Spirit nominee. Or it's got one of like the special awards, I think. But I watched it months and months ago. John actually was the first one to watch it, and he didn't like it. I think this is actually in like his worst of the year list, but this is up there in the best of the year for me. The Artifice Girl. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, let me pull it up real quick. The Artifice Girl. Yeah, there it is. All right, so essentially the movie takes place in like 3 different chapters. I'll just read the plot line here. A team of special agents discover a revolutionary new computer program to bait and trap online predators. After teaming up with the program's troubled developer, they soon find that the AI is rapidly advancing beyond its original purpose. So it's a movie about AI. So like the first part of the movie, first chapter, is like them kind of discovering the software and talking to the developer. Second act is like 10 years later. Third act is like, I don't know, a bunch of years later. It's structured in a very kind of unique way. It's 93 minutes. It's a quick watch, but the script, it just kind of shows you just like, if you just have good writing, you don't need to do a lot with your movie. Like you could just have just a really good concept, really good dialogue, good actors. That's really all you need to make a really solid movie. And this is just kind of that example. I was fascinated with what they were talking about. It does have to do with obviously AI, and that is like kind of like the future right now. And it kind of has a very intriguing kind of look at it. I don't want to give away anything if you haven't like really heard of this movie. I will say, if you follow Chris Stuckman, who's a kind of a big YouTube reviewer, or you know, he's big in the film critic scene. He put this on his best of the year list, and I was shocked to see it. Like he was the only other person I'd even heard about who talked about this movie, The Artifice Girl. So I was like, oh, let's go, hell yeah! So I was happy to see that. Very good movie. You can only watch it on Mubi, which is like if you have a library card, you can watch it. So it's hard to find. But maybe eventually it'll get to or you can rent it. I guess you can rent it, but
yeah, I could
or
probably do that on
Hoopla.
Amazon.
That's what, not Mubi. Hoopla. That's the library card. But it's
cool.
solid. He hasn't really made anything. No, so he's the lead actor in the movie. So I guess he wrote, directed, and starred in the movie. So but it was solid. Very, very, very solid movie. Very scary as well. But yeah.
Ooh,
The Artifice
scary. All right. So my last one is one that I think we actually have an episode on it. It was No One Will Save You.
Nice. All right.
Caitlin Devers. Like, it's just, I've never seen an alien movie tackled like this, where it's just almost like a silent movie, but it's not. There's just she doesn't say anything except like 2 words.
There's no dialogue. Yeah.
You see these creatures kind of land and they hint at it, and just some of the over the top ways that they show like an abduction, very unique. And then it ends in a really like cheery way, but when you realize what's going on, it's almost terrifying with what's happening with them and whatnot. And she just does such a good job at emoting and playing this character without saying a word and actually making you care. and she's just this outcast, and you're not sure why, and you get subtle hints of it throughout. And I just think it's one of the most unique alien stories we've gotten in a long time. And she's just a fantastic actress, and she's gonna go on to great and amazing things, like she already has. But this one I just had so much fun watching. I could watch it anytime because it's just so unique.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No One Will Save You on Hulu.
No
We
One
do have an
Will Save
episode on
Me.
it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good under the radar gem. And it has that not really a gimmick, but just a no dialogue. But another movie,
Style.
another movie recently did that. Silent Night, the John Woo movie, the action movie,
Yep.
just came out. It's pretty fun, but it kind of gets annoying after a while. Like it becomes so obvious that they're just trying not to say anything, and so it's like,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, whatever. But then again, it's like if they
Yeah.
did have dialogue, it would be the most generic, stereotypical Chat GPT dialogue, just based on the
Yeah.
premise of the movie. So it's like you don't,
Yeah.
but whatever. My last recommendation for the under the radar gems, it's another Indie Spirit movie nominee, just because I didn't know any of these movies even existed until all these nominees came out, and then I checked it out without knowing anything. Turns out that's the best way to go and watch a movie, because then you just are constantly surprised. So my last pick is The Starling Girl. Have you heard of this?
Yes, this one I have.
Okay. It premiered at Sundance last year. It's about 17-year-old Jim Starling struggles with her place within her Christian fundamentalist community, but everything changes once her magnetic youth pastor Owen returns to their church. And this is played by Lewis Pullman. He was in Top Gun Maverick. He was I don't know if you recognize him. He had glasses in the movie.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Forget his code name, Lieutenant
Yeah,
Robert
it was
Bob
a different
Floyd.
one.
But he plays the kind of the older youth pastor that comes back from a mission in Puerto Rico, and this young 17-year-old Christian girl kind of starts having a crush on him, and just the whole. I'm kind of fascinated by like religious cults, just
Same.
because like it's so foreign to me, and I'm so just like I don't know, just it's so devastating, and just the fact that like people have lived their lives in these cults is just mind blowing to me. And I'm not trying to say Christians are cult leaders, but this family in this church, where they are doing like courtships on marriages and trying to do all that, it's crazy to me. So I was fascinated with this movie. I like movies where there is this big secret and they're trying to just make sure that secret never gets out, and it adds that tension to the movie that I really enjoy. So this one I thought was really solid. I think it got nominated for best first screenplay or something, and it's totally deserving. Performances were great as well, and yeah, it's a movie that I never would have watched this movie if it wasn't nominated, or just I don't know. I just randomly came upon my watch list and checked it out and was like really pleasantly surprised by it. So I would say The Starling Girl, and it's on Paramount Plus. So if you have Paramount Plus, go and watch The Starling Girl. Yeah,
cool.
That's all of them, right?
That's all of them. That's underrated movies, man.
It's a lot of underrated movies. That's 10 movies that you can go and check out right now if you wanted to. But come back in a couple of weeks, because all three of us will be back for our favorite movies of the year, our annual podcast that we do at the end of every single year, where we kind of recap usually it's like the top 5, technically just like 10 movies, whatever. We talk about a lot of movies that we just absolutely loved. It's the year where I've seen the most amount of movies, 180. I liked most of them. Let's say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to do that podcast with all of you guys and talk about our favorite movies of the year. But there's still a ton of movies that I got to check out, so it'll be in a couple of weeks.
Same. Yeah, I'm hoping that my top 5 won't be what it is now. I'm hoping to see like Poor Things and a couple other movies that could squeeze in, and make an impact, and I'm excited.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think what's like the biggest one that I have left to see. Anatomy of a Fall, The Zone of Interest.
I need to see those. Yeah.
Um, Other than that, I'm pretty. Oh, I didn't see The Color Purple. I could see that, and Ferrari, but I'm not hearing great things about Ferrari.
Yeah,
So
I heard it was pretty bland and just kind
yeah.
of, yeah. But
Anyways,
cool.
yeah, I think that's gonna be the episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Let us know what movies you thought were under the radar, movies that you think that we should check out before we make our best of the year podcast. Leave a comment on YouTube, leave a comment on Instagram, wherever you do follow us, wherever you listen to our podcast. Reach out because we'd love to hear from you. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.